Good morning and welcome back to another video. I'm Blair. You're watching Back to the Past. This promises to be a very short episode this time. What I am doing is making an end grain sealer for all the wood, mostly that I cut on the sawmill, but really for all wood because wood loses most of its moisture through end grains, which causes a lot of splitting on the ends because the end is drying and shrinking faster than the rest of the board. This homemade concoction that I've been making and using, it's way less expensive than to buy anchor seal, which does, I guess, pretty much the same job. A lot of people use leftover latex paints, which I've done too. But this really is great in that it has probably a ½ an inch of penetration into the end grain, so it really helps to stop or at least slow down the amount of moisture that goes through the ends of logs. Helps prevent splitting. What it is it's a mixture. I'm going to make a gallon quantity, and what I do to do this is I first melt 2½ pounds of paraffin wax, and then I add to that an equal amount of linseed oil, and then I'll probably warm it back up just a little bit since today's a cold day, and then to that I thin it with turpentine, and I'll go most of the rest of the way to the 1 gallon mark with that. And that will, in cold weather, it'll coagulate to where it really doesn't brush on well. It remains a kind of a waxy consistency then, or maybe a soft wax that can be used if you really brush hard or using a stiff bristle brush. But generally, if I paint the can black once I'm finished and set it out in the sunshine, why, heck, it heats up on its own and becomes a liquid. Let's take a look at what I'm using for paraffin. Generally speaking, paraffin, if you go to the grocery store and buy it by the pound, you're going to pay close to $10 a pound for it. I got it for about 1/3 that on Amazon by buying it in bulk quantities of 10 pounds. I am using a double boiler setup. I brought my induction stovetop from inside. I want to do this outside because this is all very flammable material. I don't want to start a fire, but in case I do, I've got a fire extinguisher right here handy. But the paraffin, when I get it, it actually melts pretty doggone quickly. This is what it looks like in the package. And you can see down in the gallon can, it's melted and ready to have the linseed oil added. All right, I've turned the heat down just as low as it'll go now. It stopped it from boiling. I will add some linseed oil. And I'm just going to eyeball this as an equivalent amount. There we go with that. I'm going to go ahead and return it to the heat for a little while. And that alone, the coolness of that is already coagulating the wax that's in the bottom of it. You can take a look. I guess you can see that. I got this moved out of the way. I'll give it a short stir, and then I'll go ahead and add the turpentine as a thinner. And stir that up real good. On a chilly day, this will need to be warmed up some before using. And what I like to do, since I don't feel like carrying around and trying to thaw out an entire gallon of it, is I'll pour a little bit into a jar, and then I've got the jar kind of handy. And in all honesty, a little jar like this goes quite a ways. Now we'll go down next and take a look at an oak log that I got on my mill. I'll go ahead and seal the end grains on that, which I should have done a long time ago, but when I got busy building this doggone carport, I used up everything that I had and then just never ordered the material to try to put it back into use. Now, what I made, this probably cost me under $20 to make this entire concoction. Probably closer to 15. Now, if you go to buying an equivalent sealer on Facebook or whatever, buying it by the gallon, you'll pay about 3 times that cost for it, and really you get the same thing here. The results I've had have been excellent. All right, without a doubt, I am not going to do this without making some amount of mess, but I'll give it my best shot. Actually, I've got something I can do. Every time I buy OxyClean, I always save these little things, and heck, sometimes they come in handy. Now this is already getting a film forming on top of it. And if you look up close at this clean little cup, you can see where it's got a waxy layer already over the top of it. Let me see if I can get it over here where you can see it. This log, it's red oak. It's been sitting on my mill here for quite some time now, for probably a couple months. And you can see where we got some pretty gigantic cracks already going. This end has been sitting in the sun, the far end has not, but this is untreated. Should have done this a long time ago, because I probably wasted, I don't know, maybe the end 6 inches of this log because it wasn't treated. So here goes. And almost immediately this turns into that waxy film that you saw on that little canister. And this thickens up enough that it actually fills these cracks. Now this end is drying and cracking too, but not nearly with the severity that the sunny end had. This one's pretty much been in the shade the entire time, which helps some. Anyway, I told you it would be a short episode. I thank you for joining me and being here. You'll see me again soon. Goodbye.